Dan Henderson joins us on the Fukerton.com. My name is Brad Fuchs. I don't know if you get a chance to watch any of the web shows, but ESPN does one called MMA Live, and they're interviewing Brock Lesnar after he wins the strap, and they're sitting next to him interviewing is Frank Mir, who's a guy who's a former champion, a guy that's tapped Brock Lesnar, and he's having to go through Minotauro to get a fight, just to get a fighting shot at Brock. That must have been very strange to watch from a fighter's standpoint.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I could imagine that had Randy won that fight, I don't know if that would have made Frank Mir feel any better, because the guy that just had the title shot is the guy that he beat. I think just the way that it worked out as far as Randy retiring, or not retiring, but stepping down and then coming back and filling into the belt again, I think they should have just got somebody else or waited to have Randy fight winner of O'Gara and Mir.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with, excuse me, I'm sorry, Dan. We're talking with Dan Henderson, who's got a big fight with Rich Franklin coming up on January 17th on UFC pay-per-view. Check him out. Also, you can go to danhenderson.com or clinchgear.com to check out all of Dan's stuff. Let me ask you about something else that's going on in the UFC, Dan. Clearly, you're an established fighter. You've got a big name. You're very marketable. John Fitch was recently released from the UFC because he wouldn't give up his likeness rights for this UFC video game that's coming out. And it's called for a lot of people to say that you guys really need to be unionized and take the next step forward as a group of fighters, because clearly the UFC is putting on a great product and there's win bonuses and there's fight bonuses, but there have been some questions as to how much you fighters who are in there bleeding and sweating are actually getting paid. Where do you come down on that? I don't know if you're following what's happening with John Fitch, but it seems to be a very strange situation that he's involved with the UFC, and it does look like it's going to affect a bunch more fighters.
I had heard a little bit about it this morning, so I don't know any of the details right now. And I can tell you that he probably already gave up his likeness rights, but as far as the video game is concerned, it was non-exclusive, and I think it was probably a matter of turning that into exclusive is an issue right now that the UFC is wanting the fighters to do for the video game, and that could have been an issue. I don't know.
Where do you come down on that, though, Dan? It's not like when the WWE says, okay, we're going to trademark your character's name. I mean, Dan Henderson is your name, and if they want to trademark that, well, that's what you were born with. I'm just curious as to what your opinion is on their policy on that.
Well, obviously I think that all the fighters are a little bit underpaid, especially the top guys that drive the sport. And it is a team effort as far as driving the sport. And our pay-per-view numbers are up there. And I think we need to be compensated a little bit better. But the UFC definitely is a huge tool. Without the UFC, none of these guys would be getting paid that much. The sport wouldn't be where it is. And so I think there could be a common ground on that. And I would love to see a fighters union, but I don't see it happening just because that, there's a lot of starving fighters out there that, 10 of them stand on every corner that would step in there in everybody else's place. And it's just a matter of the UFC marketing them and billing them as the top guy. So, it's going to be tough to make a fighters union is all I'm saying, because there's a lot of guys that would fight for nothing.
I agree. It's a great point, and it's a valid concern. Last question. I hate to hit you with these hard ones, but this is something that I noticed when I was in Atlanta to watch you fight and to watch Chuck take on Rashad. Your fight was great. I saw fighters coming out of the locker room just to see you in the cage, and everybody was behind you in Atlanta. But then you had the main event fight where, first of all, you had Matt Brown fighting the stun gun, the Korean stun gun, and he got booed simply because he was from Asian descent, which I thought was a little classless. And then Rashad Evans comes out and gets almost booed out of the stadium. And I know that Chuck Liddell is a fan favorite, but I was just curious, Dan. You've been in all these cages all over the world. You fought in America and you fought in Asia. Do you get a sense that there's kind of an underlining, racism sometimes in some of these arenas where people bring their extra baggage in and that influences the way that they root? Because it seems to me if a fighter can take care of business in the cage, he deserves your respect. And it would be a shame that if some people were rooting or not rooting for a guy because of the color of his skin. Do you get that sense when you're in there in the cage that you feel sometimes that's what motivates the fans?
No, I don't really think it's the color of the skin, but, it is a lot of times a sense of patriotism, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that in Japan, that fighting over there so many years, that's one thing that I really enjoyed about the fans over there was the fact that they respected all the fighters.
Right.
They definitely had their favorites. I mean, they would definitely cheer a lot harder for Sakuraba when he'd come out.
Right.
But they definitely cheered all the fighters, and I would rarely hear any booing. Now, experiencing and watching, I didn't fight up there, but watching St. Pierre fight Matt Serra up in Montreal, that was an unbelievable amount of booing when Matt Serra came out.
That's a good point.
Fans, but it's just a matter of patriotism in that case, and these Canadians got behind their Canadian guy, and there was probably some smack talking that they were just behind their guy, and they definitely verbalized that with boos, and their dislike towards Matt Serra and their cheers towards George St. Pierre. So, that's nice to have that. Sometimes, especially if you're the hometown guy, and sometimes it's fun to be on the underdog part of that as well, and to prove the whole crowd wrong or to shove it in their face. But
Dan, we're tremendous fans of yours, man. We've caught up with Rich before, but we're going to be rooting for you in that fight. Thank you so much. We'd love to catch up with you after the fight if that's possible and get your thoughts on how it went.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. Anytime. Just let me know.
Thanks, man. DanHenderson.com and ClinchGear.com. Good luck, Dan. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye.